2-0s, so they weren't beaten yet. So coming into the series,
yes.
they're definitely looking
she doesn't
stronger.
know.
One of those 2-0s
Oh, no.
was a 45-minute victory in a Plague Fall up against another team that did not kill the first boss, but it was a challenging run. But look at what we've got on our screen right now. Chabu Duo, not one, not
Is that a
two,
feral?
but 3 paladins joined by the feral druid as well, and a survival hunter to round things out here.
I gotta find the cat.
Watching here?
I gotta find the cat ears now. All right, so
Yeah, this is
if I wasn't busting out before.
cat composition here for Don't Push, playing the maximum allowed number of cats on their team.
1.
Yeah, which is 1.
Well,
that's more than most.
They probably have a cat from the Surf Hunter. Just kind of depends.
True. Oh, yeah, so they should play a BM Hunter as well to get another cat, actually. Good point.
They could also use Animal Companion as well.
Yeah, so.
They have a wolf. That's so messed up.
Unbelievable.
Right?
Natural predator to the cat, even.
Okay, let's go back to gameplay, shall we? So, Fatien picking up the orbs from the Goliath here once it finally stands up, whereas Don't Push still waiting to pick up these orbs. They've done a substantial amount of trash and they're not using these orbs right now, so I would assume they make the most out of them once they come. I generally prefer if teams pick them up just a little bit earlier, to be honest.
Yeah, the Kyrian Goliath, really powerful, and you do want to make sure you get a full good use out of all minutes of the buff effect, so making sure that you're going to have that happen is very important. But on the other hand, if you don't necessarily need it on pull, if it lets you do something else later, but look at this, Fatien actually have the Gatekeeper in with the boss here. This is so scary, especially on bolstering. It's actually going to take out their Hunter. That's going to need to be their battle res, their one and only battle res that they have right now, being deployed over on that Hunter as that Wrath of Zul'Ramus cast goes off from the Gatekeeper as well. That mob is so cursed. Do not ask me how I know its ability cast names.
Okay, that was about to be the question, is how do you know that ability name? Like, whenever you say it, okay, I remember that is in fact the ability name for the few times that it is pulled and wiped my group, but the fact that you do it off the top of your head, that is miraculous by itself.
Again, I do not want to talk about how many times I've accidentally pulled that mob, but I feel like Fatien are pulling it intentionally here, and that damage in this MDI setting, I guess their Hunter is going to die to it, but the other players are durable enough to live through the onslaught of that Gatekeeper.
Well, they've had 2 deaths.
Yeah, the Hunter died, got rezzed, died again, as hunters do. A lot of stacks here on that Warlock as well. That's going to be Pod Tender. Damage now coming out too. The worms are kind of going unchecked here. Fatien going to have another death. That's going to be a death and an Ankh out of their healer. We have stacks now with that Carrion Eruption on everybody.
The worm,
one of those worms has exploded. And Fatien are not going to be able to kill this boss, which means it is going to be the Feral Druid, the king of the jungle, killing this boss first over on the side of Don't Push.
Yeah, I mean, Kitty Cat can, right?
Meow meow. Why is the Feral Druid in 5th place? Oh, never mind. Does Kyrian weapon stream?
That's a question that we don't ask, all right? That's something that and in fact, if you're ever playing with the Feral Druid, it's rude to ask them that. Just stick with it. Let them do their thing. They're
okay,
4th place.
Now they're in 4th place. Good point.
Ramping,
good point.
Beating the tank. That's always a good place to be. Pretty tough thing to do against prop paladins.
Please don't reset the
so.
boss. Okay.
Yeah, that was close.
The boss is honestly very difficult to reset here, but they were getting to a spot where they were starting to get to the point where it may start to reset.
All right, meanwhile, Fatien are going to give the boss another try here, but they are without Bloodlust and without a Battle Res. Don't Push still have that Bloodlust available. They're still on 0 deaths in this run. Looks like they're starting off just finishing some trash in the area. A little bit of a conservative pull here, but on bolstering, it can be pretty tough to pull all the trash all together all at once in this dungeon like you normally want to.
Yeah, I mean, that was devastating for them to kind of go into this dungeon with as many deaths and having that wipe early on. We always stress what a volatile dungeon Necrotic Way can be, and although they didn't use too much in that pull, it's going to make it so much harder for Fatien to catch up here.
Yeah, that being said, this is a dungeon where if you're pulling slow and the other team is pulling big, even if they wipe a couple times, they can still beat you. Necrotic Wake is really, really fast-paced if you're pulling really big. And don't push the kind of pull sizing they're doing right now. You know, you can see they're actually not even that far ahead, given that a full wipe happened on a boss at 20%, right? They're 30% of a boss HP, 35 seconds, and like half of a trash pull ahead, but that's probably only adds up to be a minute and a half for what was probably should have been a 4-minute mistake from Fatien.
All right, may I point your attention to the right side of the screen? The Feral Druid has popped Berserk on this trash
There we go.
pack, and his Sickle of
Let's
the
go.
Lion, he's kind of popping off a little bit, yeah? He's doing most Serve Hunter damage. It's like most of the way there, kinda.
Yeah, it's not fair because a Serve Hunter gets a Feral Druid pet and gets to do their own damage, and the Feral Druid only gets to do their own damage
Rude.
there. So
Straight up rude. You guys are rude. That
When you
Feral
factor that
Druid
in,
is
it's-
doing so much for this team, okay? Just look at the team morale getting boosted by the sheer presence of this kitty cat.
yeah, we'll have to watch out for the stampeding roars as well to help them move through the dungeon. That's even more
You guys
bonus
are
time
toxic.
being brought by the Feral Druid here as Don't Push start off their next pull here. It's going to be the Wings Divine Toll to help group all these mobs up, and look at that Prop Paladin damage on pull here. Meanwhile, Feral Druid, no Berserk on this pull. Probably going to be a little bit more single target focused on this one.
He's being a team player. No. If you squint really hard,
Oh.
he walked out of melee range to allow the Quaking to not hit his tank. So he's really being a team player here.
Yeah, Feral Druids with that balance
nice
50
Typhoon.
have larger
Sick
range. Big
Typhoon.
Typhoon coming in as well, yeah. Oh, look at the damage on the Prop Paladin. Danger.
But the Feral regrowth.
Danger
The Feral just regrowth.
indeed.
Again, another regrowth from the
Lord.
Feral Druid. Okay,
No.
well, there wasn't enough
That's
regrowth
gonna
from the
be it.
Feral Druid on the Prop Paladin. It's fine though.
Okay,
Now the Feral Druid
we'll
can go
have
into bear
to
form. Hold on. Now the
walk.
Feral can go to bear form and tank the pack.
Can you stop being toxic? Like,
The regrowths are actually an important part of that Feral Druid kit that doesn't come up all that often, but every couple globals they do get a free regrowth they can cast if they want to. Now it is a damage loss to do that, but
Yes.
in a situation where the tank needs that healing, it can be really potent extra off healing. That is going to be the res also being cast here. One thing that Don't Push are not going to struggle with is having out of combat reses, as 4 of their 5 members can res out of combat. That's something that over on the side of Fatien, it's only their healer that can res out of combat. So if the healer dies, it's going to be either battle res or bust. And we actually have a death coming out for them on the start of this Narzuda pull right at the very beginning here. That's the mage down.
how?
Oh,
Did you
another
get
death of a
instant
Warlock?
aggroed?
They must
Maybe
have,
casts?
I think it was the Marauder Cleave. If I had to guess,
Maybe.
Oh,
look,
yeah,
look at,
maybe.
'cause look at the Tombstone. The Tombstone is in melee. I think more often than not, that's going to be a Marauder Cleave that's going to kill mage right there.
The melee mages, we know them. Oh, they're having so much trouble. First the mage, then the warlock, now the hunter. They're missing all of their damage on this pull here, and they have used the
Carrion
orbs
Orb, yeah.
to kind of kill this pack, and it's not getting done. They can't even finish off the Marauder shield, which is going to add so much more trouble to this pack with them not being able to finish it off. The group is trying to get back together. 2 of the casters are with them. The hunter's still missing, but oh my god, that's going to throw them so far back even more.
This is painful here for Fatien. Meanwhile, though, on the side of Don't Push, things aren't perfect either as the tank is down. They're going to have to do a Master Res, maybe an Invis Pot type skip where the pot may not have been available going on for them. Yeah, we are going to have to see just how this one works out. Of course, 43% count, soon going to be 54 Don't Push. 43 for Fatien. As they finish off this pull, though, they'll be able to get up there to that similar amount of count as well. So both teams do need to get to about 68 or 70 before they can head up to the Necropolis. 68 is probably the number we're going to see. Neither team actually has a Priest or a Death Knight, so they won't be able to mind control any of the enemies in the Necropolis. They're going to have to kill off all of those rather than leaving any alive. So that is going to be something that potentially slows them down relative to something like that Holy Priest comp that some teams use.
Yeah, definitely. Don't Push will try and pick up those Goliath orbs once they're done with the Necromancer here. And then maybe we're gonna see a big pull. We did see teams this week decide to opt for that patrolling mini-boss. I think it's a Skeletal Monstrosity or something. Anyhow, oh, a death on the side of Don't Push. But both teams trying to make their way here, get those orbs into the group, and then go pretty big.
Quaking griefs the res for Don't Push. Tragedy, and now they have that buff ticking on them, but it's not actually active. Meanwhile, Fatien actually pulling a little bit ahead in terms of dungeon progression. It's worth noting there are 35 seconds of death timer that Don't Push have as an advantage, so when you factor that in, Don't Push are still in the lead, but given how catastrophic the first pull of the dungeon was for Fatien, it is crazy to me that, I mean, again, and that catastrophic Narzuda pull, the fact that they are able to keep up here, it just goes to show how powerful it is to be pulling aggressively in this dungeon in particular against a team that is going more of that safe strategy.
Definitely. I mean, I'm just stunlocked a little bit by what's happening in this key. It is a 22 Plaguefall Fortified, so all of these trash pulls are just a little bit more scary, but at the same time, just pulling these two mobs by themselves on the side of Don't Push really cannot be the answer here.
All right, Fatien starting that RP, 68%. They are ready to head up to the Necropolis after they finish this boss. Don't Push, hot on their heels, though, do have that woe buff as well.
I think I prefer the position that Don't Push is in just due to the death differential, but it's not by much. I think it's one of those things that it is certainly not by enough to where I would be comfortable if I am in either team's shoes here.
I mean, the Necropolis is still waiting, and like we just said, it is fortified, so bolstering fortified will do their magic in that Necropolis, and that's going to add a lot more trouble for these teams.
Looks like Don't Push's woe buff has actually expired tragically for them before they could skip through to the boss. How are they going to handle this? Is it going to be in this pot? What is the theory here for Don't Push?
Waiting for pot cooldown, I guess?
This is such a brutal feeling. Anytime you're just standing there at an MDI setting, it is so rough.
This is what
we
describe in industry.
It looks like it's going to be a pull to the side. No, they're just going to kill this. Okay.
No, I hate this. I hate this.
They
have
to
to
kill
find
this.
a way.
Yeah.
They could have. I mean, they could have just like
died and gotten
yeah,
rezzed
they
by
could
the
have
druid.
died and had the
Death running is
druid and
better.
the hunter kind of invest through.
Death running is objectively better because, okay, so 25. Okay, this pack is not going to cost them 15 seconds of deaths that the 3 paladins would occur, right? Like this pull is going to be like a 35-second pull, and sure you do get some time back from the buff, but not enough to where you're happy about it. I don't know.
I think that
and the waiting around, that was the most criminal part of the whole entire endeavor, I'm pretty sure.
definitely
I mean,
tragic.
they had to decide, right? Sometimes when stuff goes wrong, you don't necessarily instantly have an answer for how you're dealing with it, because it never occurred in practice or anything. So them not instantly moving, I do understand. I generally would have wished for them to kind of test run it like you said, Tuttles, but having them stand there for 5 seconds, I think is understandable. Not ideal, but understandable.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's just one of those things that I think that pack by itself, so they have to do all the Necropolis trash, right? They're going over count. That pull by itself, they were just better off death running because the remainder of the trash in the dungeon is not skippable. So, like, I think you're just supposed to sack to the pack and then just have the
it's one of the things, though, where, like, okay, we can think about that now that we're not in the dungeon, looking at it from outside, right? But when you're actually in the middle of a dungeon, you just gotta, like, do stuff, right? Especially if it's not something you practiced. You just have to...
Yeah.
You just have to, make a call and then go for it. And yeah, obviously it's better to find the faster strategy, but whenever you're deviating from your expected plan, sometimes you just don't find the fastest way through things. Because yeah, I do agree the death skip would have been better, but what they've done is, at least they've kept the dungeon rolling. And yeah, I mean, look at this boss 2 split though. Fatien, 7 minutes on the boss 2 split, 10 minutes and 40 seconds for Chabu Duo there for Don't Push over on the right-hand side. And they are now behind, even when you factor in the death timer. Looking at that timer, they
Like
are
3
something
minutes?
like 30 seconds behind, yeah.
Yeah. Oof. That is pretty devastating. To be honest, Don't Push has a little bit more count, but it
doesn't help
should
because
be
you
enough
have
what
to get all the
Fatien
count.
has.
Yeah,
exactly. So it's not
Yes,
that they
this is the
needed
issue.
it. Yeah.
That's why it's so bad. It's
man.
because the
Death
rest
for
of the count is-
Fatien, though. Ankh
you know
is
what?
available. Is it going to be
What really
used is the
upsets
question.
me-
No, Last Resort comes out. They're just going to wipe this one. All right,
Cauterize,
Fatien
everybody
throwing
dies,
it right back over to Don't
seed
Push.
pot tender, like all of the cheat deaths for that mage just procced, as well as for the warlock. No way you didn't want to Ankh here.
Now, Don't
Wait,
Push are
what?
Don't Push are just fighting the spare parts by themselves. That can be a thing that makes sense if it lets you set up for a big pull. Let's see how big they decide to go here. They do have 2 of those orbs available if they want to try and make something pretty big happen. Looks like it's going to be 2 packs together here. Not the biggest we've ever seen in this Necropolis, but with bolstering, I don't blame
Ooh.
them for not wanting to go too much bigger.
I'm down with the Kyrian weapon usage. Oh, and actually the nice knock from the Feral Druid, able to get the mobs grouped up. The Gore Splatter cast is incredibly dangerous, as well as the Drain Fluid. So just getting those mobs knocked in, the Corpse Collectors knocked in, to allow you to kick them more easily with things like Avenger Shield, with things like Divine Toll. I really like how the Don't Push was utilizing that Feral Druid to be able to
I was
get the
just
mobs grouped up.
saying, if Don't Push lose this, everybody's going to be like, yeah, never play Feral Druid and Red Paladin in your
Well-
keys. They lost. But no, not well. Come on.
I would say that regardless
You just
of whether or
killed
not
that
they win or
Feral
lose.
Druid, Tettles. You just killed that Feral Druid. I hope you're proud of yourself.
I think it was Cybear's fault.
All right, so actually,
Fair.
Don't Push having a tank death here on this pull, but things are not going well for Fatien either, as they have tank death as well. Look at those
Eh?
bolstered mobs just farming on the side of Fatien there. That's going to be up to 15 deaths, 75 seconds. Oh, make that 20 deaths, 100 seconds of death timer for Fatien. Up against the 35 for Don't Push. This is going to be a real slog through the rest of the Necropolis now, because those Kyrian weapons have mostly been used at this point. A lot of defensives,
Yeah.
a lot of last resort type effect, a lot of cheap deaths are also down for both teams. So these dangerous pulls have just gotten more dangerous as a result of wiping to them once.
I mean, it comes back to what we always say, this dungeon being volatile, this dungeon being lethal. If pulls go wrong and you committed those weapons to a pull, it's gonna cost you so much, because the pulls are not possible without the weapons. You need to go smaller, you need to go slower, you're probably gonna die more, and we're in a situation right now where trouble is ahead for these teams.
Do you prefer Don't Push his live route in this dungeon, like the actual Dratnos route in here?
Look, I mean, it seems like it's kind of working out for them. They're not
they
dying
don't
nearly
have
as much.
22 deaths. Like, yes, I do prefer that route. If you're not confident enough to pull up these huge pulls that are
Dude.
super dangerous, then go slow and consistent. We've
Fatien
always said
tilt me.
this. Like, if you don't die, then you probably win the dungeon.
Dude, Fatien tilt me so hard. They're the same team that snapped the Sentient Oils yesterday, but for some reason two-phased Moizala. I do not understand this team, man. Like, anyways, pick one. At the same point, now Fatien on the left side of your screen, trying to just retool, recover, and pull the Necropolis one more time. It's just like, now they are pulling one pack at a time. Like you were saying, they have to be more consistent with their pulls. It's too late. 22 deaths? I think at this point, Don't Push. They're just kind of chugging along. They're playing their game plan like you were talking about, and maybe the live route is superior in here, in this situation.
Maybe it is.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely something to be said for just not dying and keeping your route more clean. Although it's worth noting, it's not like Don't Push haven't had some disasters as well. 7 deaths is still quite a lot, but in Necrotic Wake, 7 deaths can sometimes look really, really good if your opponents are on, of course, something like 22, like Fatien. But of course, it's still not over. The size of these pulls for Fatien means they are still certainly left alive in this one. You're seeing both teams with Don't Push at 96 now percent count. Almost ready to finish this dungeon. Starting this last trash gauntlet. Meanwhile, Fatien still have a little bit more trash pulls that they need to take care of. So Don't Push, I mean, they probably have room to give, maybe not a full wipe, but definitely things can go a little bit wrong for them and they can still be in the lead in this one.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I'm a little bit scared for what's going to happen with the next trash pack for Don't Push once it is going to spawn, but they are dealing with the assistance right now, and that's looking pretty solid, whereas Fatien still needs to finish up this pack and then the one we see in the background. So they still have a lot more to deal with here. But they do have that Bloodlust available, and I think once you're gonna get, like, once you're knocked back from your original route, sometimes it's worth it to just full send that Bloodlust in the hopes of just getting an additional one. So I think if they Bloodlusted now, they would get even another one for the final boss.
I mean, you
on how
only
this
get another one
goes.
if there's a wipe at this point.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't think you want to assume there will be more wipes here.
You know what's
They've had
funny?
it for a little while, so I feel like they could have used it, you know?
I kind of like Don't Push's comp from this position. The Feral Druid, the Feral Druid is actually really good. Also, the Holy Paladin and the Protection Paladin. It looked like the POV for the rebroadcast kind of paused for Don't Push as I started talking about them. But like, I actually think that the Holy Paladin, the Protection Paladin, and the Feral Druid are all really good for the final two encounters that we're going to see in this dungeon. And so it's to the point where I do think that they're actually almost 100% in the lead here, outside of just like a catastrophic wipe.
Yeah, so this is Fatien that we have full screen. Hopefully we can get the perspective back from Don't Push at some point in the future, but it is Fatien now starting this trash gauntlet. Ooh, aggro initially on the Warlock there. Got to be careful to not stand too close to where those mobs spawn if you are not the tank, or that could happen to you. Luckily, it's not going to cost a death, as the Demonic Tyrant's coming out here from that Demonology Warlock. Something we may not have talked much about, but in this dungeon, that is a nice single target gain to be playing. I think I'd rather, again, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, I'd rather see the Demonology in addition to, rather than instead of, the Destruction Warlock, but definitely can look pretty strong, especially if you aren't killed in the middle of your Demonic Tyrant, like Fatien's Warlock just was.
I really hope that we get the Don't Push. Again, this is a rebroadcast of the Chinese broadcast that happened a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're back. We needed this
Yeah.
POV, and this is incredibly important. Okay, so they're on to Rot Spew here, and so they need to make sure that I mean, they just need to dodge out of the way of the spew that he ends up, the spew disease that he ends up doing. It's really dangerous on high Q levels, but on the MDI levels more often than not, it's like pretty chill.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just watching that kitty cat not be in range for like 10 seconds here.
No, it's okay.
He is in range. No, he is in range.
Affinity. Yeah, look at that. That's always in range. Feral Druids have extra range as long as they choose Balance Affinity.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
okay,
you want to
fair.
choose Balance Affinity because it is a damage increase.
Look at that. He's able to hit all the mobs from
like
here.
with quaking, that's actually really smart. Okay,
Yeah.
if you have as many melees, okay, I take it back. I like this. I mean,
then
I
it
kind of
is,
like the kitty cat in general, but that's a different
Ret
story.
Pally down for Don't Push there. Ret Pally is indeed down, flying back right now.
one of the paladins.
I only see two pink nameplates on screen, so yeah, the third is down. And there's that Bullstring Sax now coming in. This Rot Spew going to start being pretty lethal on any of its Spew Disease casts. Luckily, targets the tank. That is pretty fortunate.
Did you guys know that you can tank Rot Spew in the corner around where he spawns, and then you can actually line of sight that Spew Disease?
Ah, cool. I
Yeah,
didn't know that.
Oh, a barrel! He didn't bear in time. He ended up getting hit by the 3-stack bolstering Spew Disease cast. Very unfortunate.
But
Yeah, they
they're
are.
going to be able to res him, no battle res needed, just going to be able to just cast it, and then they will enter the boss fight.
Oh, nearly
Which-
killed by the Quake on the res. Nearly the old up and down again.
That was scary.
All right, here they go into the boss encounter, though.
Will they bloodlust? Because they have it now? Or
think
are
I
they
would
going to
bloodlust this
save
fight.
it for the final
Yeah.
boss?
I would use it here, but I could see using it on the last boss as well.
Yeah, same. So I'm curious to see what they opt for. I don't think they have any weapons left. They
The
do
Feral
have
Druid
one
has a
spare.
Yeah.
Oh, then they have two. They have two. One of the paladins also has a spear on their back. So
The hunter just launched it.
I think it's a red. Yeah. So and maybe they just spare this and then use. Oh no, they use Bloodlust as well. Okay, so full send. Try to nuke this boss, and they're doing a pretty good job of that. Keep in mind it's not tyrannical, but still.
Again, their comp is like super good at this. The Holy Paladin, Prot Paladin, Feral Druid. We kind of clown on the Feral Druid sometimes, but they are low key really good at dealing with this boss, especially with like the amount of burst damage that they have from like the Convoke. And then, like on top of that, it's like CD stacking with the javelin and whatnot. They were able to get that. They were able to get Surge and Stitch Flesh dealt with, relatively quick compared to some of the other teams that we've seen during MDI weekends.
It is a little bit of an awkward boss to convoke because you have that other ad there just soaking up some of your spells underneath it. But again, just the single target damage that they're bringing out is pretty good, especially on this last boss. One of the best ones for a spec like Feral that you can find, as they also do the downstairs teleport very quickly. All right, meanwhile, Fatien are working on Stitch Flesh as well. They need Don't Push to wipe, though, at this point, because look at that death difference, right? 65 seconds of death timer separate these two teams, and Fatien are behind in the dungeon, so they really need basically a full wipe on the boss here for Don't Push to catch back up.
There's no possible way they could wipe from here.
No way they could wipe from here.
They did commit that spear right away, which I think is a little bit scary, but let's see what they do. They are in the small picture. They need a dodge. Dratnos, I'm sorry. You want to say something?
I was just gonna say they have 3 paladins in the group, and yet there's a Frozen Binds cast that's going off. It's crazy. You got 3 freedoms. Use them, and that ability doesn't do anything.
Thank you so much for being snarky.
I could hear Dratnos getting really unhappy. So.
It's just the, yo, Dratnos, do you want to say something? Yeah. Okay.
It was a really good point, you guys.
It was a really good point.
Oh, there it is. There's the freedom. See, if you pre-freedom that Frozen Binds, does nothing at all.
Yeah, it doesn't happen. Very true. But they do have 30. A death that they need to battle us right now. Still 2 more battle S's available for Don't Push as they dodge these incoming, ice storm patches. I actually don't know what they're called. Icy winds or something.
Comet Storm, want to say?
Comet Storm?
Maybe that's a Frost Mage ability, though.
See, it's something with the storm.
I think it's Comet Storm. I think you're right.
What is the damage here on the boss here? I mean, this shouldn't matter because of the death timer, but
wait,
are just melting the boss here. I guess they maybe had more weapons to send on it. There's a death again for Don't Push. This also still looks intentional, though. This looks like whoever's being sent down just dying instantly. Yeah.
Gosh, what is the gap here? I guess, I mean, Don't Push has more damage from carrying weapons on the boss. Like, look at the damage meter. They have 1.85 million versus Fatien.
Yeah.
1.42 million.
I don't know. Their players are just doing like 50% more damage, and Fatien are actually going to kill the boss first, but Don't Push with the extra death timer.
Oh, it was Lust.
It is going. Yeah, the Lust as well. Okay, yeah, the Lust is why they were doing like way more damage. But yeah, Don't Push, even though they kill the boss later, they are a minute ahead on death timer there. So Don't Push actually do take game 1 in the series there.